Find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Welcome to the Brutal, Bizarre, and Boozy podcast. I'm Deklan, the son.
And I'm Jane, the mom. This is the podcast where we talk about brutal crimes, bizarre occurrences, and get you drunk with cocktails themed around one of our stories. To lighten things up, we'd like to end our time with a chaser. Please keep in mind some of our stories might be upsetting to young or sensitive ears.
We love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to contact us by email or social media. You can find our contact info in the show notes for this episode. If you'd like to support us through Patreon, you can find us there at Brutal, Bizarre, and Boozy Podcast, or use the link in our show notes.
Hello, Twisted Humans. Do you find yourself wanting to know more about the latest murder, conspiracy, cult, or haunting? Then this is the podcast for you. In 1952, there was a record high of UFOs reported. 1,500 sightings. There has been evidence of human sacrifice, devil worship, and it is haunted by more spirits than can be counted. A family of 2 adults and 2 kids reportedly saw a giant flying thing with glowing red eyes.
And meanwhile, the family's nanny that helped Veronica to care for her and Lucian's children was found bludgeoned to death in the basement of their family home.
I'm Alicia. And I'm Sierra, and this is Twisted and Uncorked.
Hey there, my name is Bree.
And I'm Suze.
We're the hosts of Crime and Spirits, a true crime and cocktail podcast. Do you love spooky stories and all things true crime?
How about themed cocktails? Do you love those too?
Well, that's perfect, because so do we.
Yeah, in fact, we love them so much, we made an entire podcast all about it.
Every week, we bring you a new episode that covers a different case or topic of interest, but first, we'll need drinks.
Don't you worry, we've got you covered there. Every week, we'll teach you how to make a handcrafted cocktail that ties into the theme or topic in some way.
So you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and pretty much every other platform available.
New episodes roll out every Sunday.
So buckle up
and sip tight.
We can't wait to talk some true crime with you. Bye!
Thanks for joining us once again, everybody.
Hi, friends.
What are you going to be telling us about today, Mom?
I'm going to be telling you about the kidnapping of Abby Hernandez from...
This is going to be a locked in the basement type thing.
There's no basement.
Oh, well, you didn't say she wasn't locked up, but okay.
Well, we'll get there.
So,
it's
I'm
not good.
Talking okay, yeah. Well, I mean, you're telling the brutal this time.
I am telling the brutal, so it's not going to be good. I mean, well, some of it's good.
Okay. I am going to be talking about the Somerton Man. Which I hadn't heard of, but it's definitely weird.
I think I have heard of it, but I'm not sure it's what I'm thinking of. So I'm excited to hear more about it.
It's very similar to that, the lead glasses guys.
Okay. Like weird. All right, cool.
Unexplainable person, but
all right.
Anyways, to go with this, I have the cocktail called the Japanese Slipper, and the reason I chose this is because it originated in Australia, which is where my story takes place.
Okay, so the Japanese Slipper cocktail originated in Australia.
Yep.
Okay, sure.
It sounds funky. So it's 1 part melon liqueur, 1 part triple sec, 1 part lemon juice, and optionally you can use honeydew melon slice or ball for a garnish. Let's give this a try.
I wasn't going to go buy an actual honeydew melon just to have as a garnish.
No
so
one
I
likes
garnished
that shit anyways.
mine.
Shout out Ryan Sickler.
Right, the honeydew podcast.
Yes.
I used lime wheel for mine. But I'm excited to try this because I used to love Midori sours, and it kind of reminds me of a Midori sour in theory. So I don't know. We'll see.
Let's give it a try.
Oh, I don't hate that.
It's not bad, yeah. I'm not a huge fan of like the liqueur flavor, if that makes any
Mm-hmm.
sense. It
Yeah, I
like
get it.
reminds me of like stevia flavor. Like that it overpowers everything. That makes any sense? Like
Yeah.
it's like a
It
weird sweet flavor.
it needs um it needs more lemon, but I'm having a very strange reaction from it because I
Hmm.
just had dental surgery
Oh no,
and
is it like
it's making my cheek pucker and it hurts because that's where I got the anesthetic shot.
oh the
And
post?
so the pucker is hurting.
That's
So
weird.
I
I didn't. For people who don't know, I work in the dental industry, and it, I didn't know that. That it never occurred to me that like that type of work would cause a reaction to like sour things. Is it? Have you eaten like sour candy since then?
no. I haven't eaten
No.
much since then.
Okay.
And definitely nothing sour.
I won't.
So,
I wonder if sour candy would like
oh, it'd
trip
probably
you up.
kill me. I don't think I would do very well from it.
That's interesting. I'm gonna
Oh, yeah.
also, if people don't know, my company is making her tooth, so
Yeah.
that's another cool thing I get to see.
He's going to help
We get to
finish
see the
my
process
dental
of it.
surgery.
Yeah.
Yay for dental surgery. Ugh.
Yay.
Okay, so tell us about
Okay.
this mystery man.
Yes. So on December 1st, 1948, basically the same year as last week's story,
Almost.
around 6:30 a.m., police became aware of a body lying on the Somerton Park beach. He was lying with his legs crossed and a cigarette half smoked on it, lied on his collar. So he had obviously been smoking when he died, and it just flopped onto his collar.
Okay.
When police searched his pockets, they discovered an unused bus ticket from Adelaide, which is about 7 miles from where the body was found, to Henley Beach, a small comb, half empty pack of juicy fruit, a pack of cigarettes that were repackaged, and a box of matches. So like
Okay.
he had a pack of cigarettes that were it's like switching marbles and uh native
Newports
spirit
or
or whatever it's called.
okay.
American spirit.
Okay. I was going to say Easy Spirit, but I think that's a shoe company. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know anything about cigarettes. I just know
Neither do
Marlboro
I.
and the
I
one
know
with the Native
Marlboro because
American on it. I think that's
Marlboro was
American
what my
spirit.
dad smoked when I was a kid. That's all I know.
Like cowboy killers.
Ugh, yeah.
So beachgoers from the previous night called police and told them that they saw a man on the beach at around 7 p.m. He was laying in the exact same spot in a similar position, but they could see him moving his arms around.
Okay, so the night before he
So, like,
wasn't dead.
yes, at 7 p.m. the night before, people saw him on the beach and he was like moving his arm out and then kind of like let it drop onto the sand.
Okay.
After an autopsy, it was determined that the man was about 5'11" and 40 to 45 years old, and he was in pretty good shape. He had a white shirt, brown pants, and red, white, and blue tie. He had socks, shoes, and a nice jacket. However, he did not have a hat or a wallet, which was unusual for men at the time. And all the brandings or markings on his clothes had been removed. However, investigators believe the tailoring looked American. I don't know how they can determine that.
Okay.
but they said the tailoring looked American, so
Sure.
whatever.
Okay. That's weird.
Adding to the strangeness, his dental records were never matched with anyone in any database. Because I'll get into it later, but they had contacted many countries to see if they were missing this guy. The only idea about this guy's death was poison, but his blood work showed no foreign substances. His body, however, showed some weird signs that indicated poisoning. Like his spleen was 3 times the normal size, and he had some hemorrhaging in his liver, stomach, and brain.
Okay.
So,
Would
not
that
hemorrhaging, but like blood vessels that were. So for his brain, there were blood vessels that shouldn't be visible that were. So it indicated that there's more blood in there than that's
okay.
supposed to be, I guess.
But I would think
Uh,
okay, so I could understand that the hemorrhaging being like an acute short-term thing, but I would think that the spleen being 3 times the normal size would be over a long period of time. That would be my thought.
I know nothing about the spleen, so I'll take your word for it.
I
I don't
don't know though. Honestly, I have no clue. I'm
know.
just
I
guessing.
don't know.
I think it would take a long time
S-
for a spleen to grow that big. That's all I'm saying.
yeah. So Dr. Doyer, who completed the autopsy, suggested a barbiturate or a soluble hypnotic as the possible poison. The body was embalmed 9 days after his discovery, which was unusual. However, the police found this necessary due to the confusion around the body. No identification, no cause of death, so they just decided to embalm him.
Okay.
On January 14th, 1949, a clerk at the Adelaide train station alerted police when they noticed a small brown suitcase with the insignia removed had been checked in on November 30th, the day before the man was discovered.
Mm.
And the suitcase was never accounted for. So they had seen the news story going around, hey, body found near Adelaide, no insignias. And so they're like, hey, this never got checked out. Like I
Oh,
think it was like similar to planes where you like check up luggage or something and
check
they
the
throw it
bag.
underneath the train.
Gotcha.
But
Never
yeah,
claimed.
so it never got picked up. Yeah. It was reasonable to believe that the suitcase belonged to this guy for that instance.
Right.
Inside the suitcase, police found a checkered red gown, a size 7 pair of red slippers, 4 pairs of underwear, pajamas, a shaving kit, brown trousers with some sand in the cuffs, a screwdriver, a table knife that had been cut down to make a smaller knife,
Weird.
a sharpened pair of scissors, a small piece of zinc, a stenciling brush, and a book of orange wax thread that was not available in Australia. Uh, this thread was also found as a stitch inside the man's pockets. So, like,
Oh,
he
okay.
had repaired his pockets with this orange wax thread.
Okay.
On some of the clothing, a tag was found reading T. Keen, like the
Okay.
letter T and then last name Keen.
Keen.
Detectives thought this could lead to their dead man. However, no missing people by the name of T. Keen were found in any English-speaking country. So they contacted US,
Okay.
UK, all those places, and they didn't have any missing people with that name. A second autopsy was performed in June of that year, and they discovered some weird things. The shoes the man was found in appeared to be freshly polished, not the shoes of someone who had been wandering around town all day. Dr. Cedric Hicks, who is a professor of psychology and pharmacology at the University of Adelaide, suggested a group of drugs that are lethal in undetectable amounts, specifically digitalis and oubane. Oubane? I don't know how to pronounce that. Which are cardiac glyphosates.
Okay.
So they're like, they help the heart produce more force, inertia. I don't know. Like, they make the heart work better.
Okay.
He also stated that there was the case where there. I'm gonna redo that. He also stated that if that were the case, there would be evidence of vomiting, which was not found.
Okay.
He suggested that the movement seen by witnesses could have been convulsions due to the poison. So, like I said, they
Oh,
saw him moving his arm out to the
yeah.
right. It could have been a convulsion, which when there's poisoning happening, like I guess there's two main signs, convulsions and vomiting, which they
Okay.
didn't see any vomiting, like, or any evidence of vomiting,
Right.
which, yeah, they could go either way. One of the strangest discoveries was a small piece of paper in the man's pocket that was missed on the first autopsy.
How do you miss that?
The- It it
Okay.
sounds like it was like a little itty bitty tiny piece of paper.
Okay.
So the paper had two words on it. Taman should. Experts determined that this was from the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, which was a poem written by Omar Khayyam and translated to end or finish. So the word that they found translated to ending or finish,
Okay.
which kind
Weird.
of threw people through a loop because it's also in another language too.
Yeah.
A photo of this was released to the public in hopes of finding the book that it was torn from. So he just tore, like, just imagine you're reading a book and the last sentence is the end, and you just
Right.
rip the little
Tore that
sentence
out.
out. So it's just a tiny itty bitty piece of paper. So
This is
it's
the end, basically.
yeah, they could mistake that, like, or not find it, like, fairly easily.
Weird. Okay.
A man contacted police and said he had the book they were looking for, and claimed he found it a day or two after the body was discovered. In the back of the book, some indentations were found which showed 5 lines of text, with the second line being crossed out and repeated on the 4th line. So he had written a line of text, written a second one, scratched it out as if he had made a mistake, and then rewrote the same letters. So the first line of code was, I'm just going to read the first line because it literally makes no sense.
Okay.
It was WRGOABABD. So it was like some sort of code or like something weird. Like, it wasn't an actual writing. It wasn't in a foreign language. It was in English, just written as a code, if that makes any sense.
Weird.
In 1978, the DoD had a cryptographer look at the code and determine that it would be impossible to provide a satisfactory answer, and that the code appeared to be meaningless product of a disturbed mind. Many people believe, though, that the code was using like the first letter to a word as the code.
Okay. So it was like a
They also
sentence, but he only wrote the first letter?
like yeah.
Okay.
They also found in the back of the book was a phone number which belonged to a nurse named Jessica Thompson, who lived about 1,000 feet from where the body was found.
Oh,
Which yeah,
that's a weird coincidence.
that's very weird. When interviewed, she claimed not to know the man or why he had her phone number, but stated that her neighbors mentioned an unidentified man stopping by and asking about her. She was shown a plaster bust of the unidentified man and said that she did not know him but refused to take a second glance and looked as if she was about to faint.
Oh,
Super suspicious.
yeah.
In the interview, she claimed that she did in fact own a copy of the book that was found and gave it to an Australian army lieutenant named Alf Boxall. So she had that exact same book. And I don't know, I mean, I can't imagine that the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam was a super popular book because it was written in another language and translated like it was just a
Right.
poem book. So
Weird.
it was kind of weird that she also owned the book and gave it to another guy. After the war, Jessica told police she moved to Melbourne and got married. So when Boxall contacted her, she replied saying that she was married, to which he never tried to contact her again. But that didn't prove very useful because Alf Boxall was found alive living in Sydney. So this clearly
Okay.
wasn't Alf Boxall.
Right.
But he had the same book and he had the same phone number. So maybe this bitch just owned a bunch of the books and was giving them out to everybody.
Giving them
But,
out to everybody.
yeah. It was like a pyramid scheme. It's like, hey, I bought
Yeah.
all these books. You want to buy a book?
Yeah. Maybe.
One theory is that the Somerton Man was a spy. There were 2 sites near where the body was found that would be of interest to foreign intelligence, and that was the Radium Hill uranium mine and the Woomera test range. Which, Radium Hill uranium mine, that sounds like some Fallout shit. Like,
Yeah.
that's...
Yeah.
Anyways, the body's discovery also was around the time of the reorganization of the Australian security agencies into the Australian Security Intelligence Organization, which is like the CIA for Australia.
Mm.
This cracked down on Soviet spies inside of Australia. So it could have been that he was a Soviet spy. It would explain that he was... A lot of his stuff was American to show that he was an American guy when he was actually Soviet spy. I could
Okay.
connect that in my head, but in 2019, Attorney General Vicky Chapman granted approval for his body to be exhumed and extract DNA for analysis. In July 22nd, it was announced that they believe they found this man's identity.
Ooh.
Yeah, due to investigative genetic genealogy, which sounds like fucking redundant to me. Genetic genealogy isn't genealogy genetic anyways, but
Yeah, I would think so.
anyways,
I get
due
what
to
you're
an
saying.
investigative genetic genealogy had shown 2 relatives, specifically cousins, to the dead guy they found on the beach.
Okay.
It was determined that this man was Carl Webb, who was an electrical engineer and an instrument maker, born November 16th, 1905. However, his cause of death was never determined.
Ooh.
And that's the story of the Somerton Man.
Wow.
Super weird.
It is very
It's
weird.
crazy that they were able to figure it out after what, 60
80
years?
Yeah. When did they
No,
identify
yeah,
him?
80. In 2022,
Oh, okay.
and he was found in 47.
Yeah.
The
So,
December 1st of 47, so
yeah, almost
basically 48.
80
Yeah,
years.
that's like 80
ish.
years. Shit.
70 plus. Wow. Do they have
Super
any
weird.
idea like why? I mean, I know they didn't figure out why he died, but what was he doing there?
So I believe, let me look it up. I think he lived in Australia. Oh, fuck it, I can't find it. Pretty sure he lived in Australia.
Okay.
That's kind of why he ended up there. They don't really know why, but he had the train ticket, so I think he was going around Australia just checking shit out. They
Huh.
don't really have an official, like, he was here to do this and see this lady.
Gotcha.
Like,
Right.
they still haven't figured out the code that he wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Weird.
and if cryptographers can't figure that shit out, no one can, I think.
Right.
Like,
No kidding.
being able to figure out a code is really hard.
I couldn't do it. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
That's above my pay grade.
Yeah. Super weird.
Definitely. Are you ready to hear about the kidnapping?
No, but yes.
So on October 9th, 2013, Xenia Hernandez was upset that her daughter Abby had not returned home from school. The family lived in a small town of Conway, New Hampshire. Abby was a responsible 14-year-old girl who had recently started her freshman year of high school. It was very out of character for her not to be home when expected. Xenia texted Abby's phone but got no response. So she went to Abby's high school thinking that maybe Abby was just there, had lost track of time, hanging out with friends, things like that. But when Xenia got to the school, Abby was not there either. She spoke with the school librarian, who reported that she had seen Abby leave campus. Abby walked away from the school around 2:30 p.m., and by all appearances, she was heading home on her usual route. Xenia's next thought was that maybe Abby had been injured on her way home and had been taken to the hospital. But the local hospital told Xenia that Abby wasn't there either. Where on earth is Abby? By 7 p.m. that night, Xenia still had not heard from her daughter, and she hadn't found her, so she reported Abby missing to the police. Abby's disappearance was featured on the local news the next night. Almost a month after Abby's disappearance, her mother received a strange letter in the mail. The letter was from Abby and was clearly in her handwriting. Abby wrote that she loved her mom and asked her mom to stay strong. Abby wrote that she was staying strong herself and that she was safe, but wouldn't tell her where she was. Xenia knew it was Abby's handwriting, but felt there was something off about the letter. Xenia quickly gave the letter to law enforcement, but they were torn on how to proceed. Investigators were concerned that maybe Abby had somehow snuck out the letter and sent it to her mom, and they worried that if they released it to the public, if they, put it on the news or something, that it would put Abby in danger. So they held on to the letter for a month. No further contact from Abby came during that time, and the letter then became public. Although Abby's friends and family knew she would never run away from home, the public had a different view. Soon, strangers were saying that Abby was just a runaway, that she had left of her own free will. They were saying that she was not a good kid, and her family and friends were like, no, this isn't right. She wouldn't do that. Thankfully, the police believed that Abby was not a runaway, but that she was in real danger. They didn't know what had really happened to her, but they were worried about her, and they didn't know what was continuing to happen to her either. So going back to October 9th, when Abby was walking home, on that day, Abby had worn some new boots to school, and on her walk home, they were really hurting her feet. When a truck pulled up next to her on the road and offered her a ride, she gladly accepted. The driver of the truck was 33-year-old Nate Kibby. His background was not great, and going back to his high school years, he was known by others as a cruel and aggressive person. Many of his classmates didn't like him, and he claimed that he had a hit list of other students. Yeah.
Jesus.
So, not a great guy. He also claimed that he was in a gang, although not everyone believed that, and some of his classmates regarded him as a loser. As an adult, he had a few scrapes with law enforcement, including accusations of physically touching a teenage girl, drug possession, and providing false information when trying to obtain a weapon. His neighbors reported hearing arguments with his girlfriend on several occasions. By 2013, Kibby was living alone when he drove past Abby as she was walking home. His helpful demeanor changed quickly after Abby got in the truck. He pointed a gun at her and handcuffed her. Kibby covered Abby's head with some clothing, and when she tried to look out the window, he shot her with a stun gun.
Jesus.
Yeah. This guy, real piece of trash. He then drove her to his home about 30 miles away. There was a storage container next to his house, and he put Abby inside, where he kept her captive. So he didn't lock her in a basement like you had asked.
Left her in a storage container. That's
Storage
probably
container.
worse.
Yeah.
No insulation. You're just fucking locked in there.
Right.
Whenever I drive by like rural properties with
Uh-huh.
shipping containers on them, I
Mhm.
always think there's a kidnapped person in there.
Well, there could be. It's
More
weird.
likely than not, I'd say. There's a lot of people that have been kept in storage containers.
Yeah, it's not good. Don't keep people in storage containers. Don't kidnap people. So he instructed her to call him master, and he watched her at all times by way of a security camera mounted inside the container. He sexually assaulted her on a continuous basis, shocked her with an electric dog collar, and subjected her to terrible abuse. Again, this guy is a piece of trash. In the early days of her captivity, Abby was allowed to watch the news coverage of her missing persons investigation. She saw her family in distress, and they were pleased for her safe return. Remember the letter that I mentioned about her mom, that the mom got about a month after Abby went missing? So that letter was actually not the first draft. In fact, a couple of weeks after she went missing, Kibby allowed Abby to write a letter to her mom. But Abby had used her fingernail to press the word help into the paper, which really smart.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he caught the message and he brutally assaulted her for doing it. And then he allowed her to write a new letter, but for some reason it took over 2 weeks for that letter to be delivered to the mom. Which, I mean, snail mail, that's pretty pathetic, but come on. Abby had unimaginable strength beyond her age. I don't know that I could have done what this girl did. I mean, she knew in order to survive, she had to cooperate as much as possible. She repeatedly told him that she wouldn't tell anyone who he was if he would just let her go. I don't think I could survive. Anyway, we'll get to it. She made an effort to befriend him and do what he asked of her. She even helped him with some illegal activities, specifically a counterfeit operation, which soon came to light. So he was counterfeiting money. And he paid a sex worker with his counterfeit money. And then the sex worker tried to cash at a store. She went to the store to buy some stuff, and they found the fake money and took it from her. So an investigation was started about the counterfeit money. The sex worker warned Kibby that the police were coming because of the counterfeit cash and that they were going to search his house. He then determined that he needed to clean things up before the police searched. So he had to get rid of Abby. Thankfully, he decided just to return her rather than doing something more drastic, which is a shock to me because usually that's not how it turns out.
I thought you were about to say she fucking got hacked up.
Yeah. Well, I think that's usually what happens in these circumstances, but it didn't, which is amazing. And I mean, you know, by all accounts, it's because she established a friendship of some sort with him. So he drove her near to where he had originally picked her up, and he let her go. She had kept saying to him, I won't tell anybody who you are if you just let me go. And I guess he believed her. When Kibby drove away, she recognized her location and that she was about a mile from her home. So she just walked home and walked in the front door.
Awful. Mile
Why
from
is
her
it
house.
awful?
Oh, God.
Yeah. Well,
that's why it's awful. It's because she was so close to home.
no, she was 30 miles away in his storage shed.
He dropped her off. Yeah.
He dropped her off. I mean, he was nice enough he's like, I don't know where you live, but I'll drop
That
you off a
direction.
mile away.
Go west.
So, yeah. Thankfully, she recognized the area and could walk home. I don't know that I could have done that at 14 years old, but she had been gone for 9 months and now
Jesus.
was finally home. A week later, Kibby was arrested with over 200 charges. Yeah, but
That's
of
close
course,
to the 900 charge guy, the
right,
Cleveland guy.
right, yes, also
The
a
same
kidnapping piece of
situation. Yeah,
trash.
fuck ton of
Yeah.
charges too.
Of course, he pled not guilty to those 200 charges. However, a month before his trial was scheduled to begin, he pleaded guilty to 7 felony charges. And it allowed
200
Abby
down to 7?
yeah. I mean,
They're probably long
however,
enough to keep him away forever, but
okay, so he was sentenced to 45 to 90 years in prison. So, I mean, that's a pretty big range.
Yeah.
But
how old was he again?
He was 33 when he picked her up. So,
okay, so he's probably not making it out anyways, but
probably not. Probably not. Even at 45 years, he's going to be, close to 80.
Fucking 80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that is the story that she survived 9 months in a shipping container.
That's fucking crazy. It reminds me of the movie 10 Cloverfield Lane. I think she was kept in a shipping container or something like that, but that was like an alien movie.
Ooh.
Oh, you haven't seen that movie?
I don't know. I'm really bad with remembering stuff like that.
This girl gets kidnapped and her captor says that like the world is uninhabitable.
Ooh.
So yeah, it's a super weird movie. She's kept in like a bunker, I could have swore it was a shipping container, but I don't know.
Maybe. I don't like it.
Yeah,
do you have a chaser for us today?
I do. My chaser is an Instagram account called. 1 second, let me pull it up real quick. Make sure I get the name right. It's called the Canna Barbecue. For all our stoners out there, it's a chef account. He's a chef and he makes really fucking good looking food, but he makes it edible, like infused.
Okay.
Infused edible. I don't know. He makes
So
it
that's
a weed. Yeah.
a weed thing. I was wondering
Yeah.
if it was weed infused food or if it was barbecue food that you want to eat when you're high.
I think it's both, basically.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
it's stuff that gets you high and makes you want to eat more of it.
Okay. All right.
It looks so good. He does a mixture of like really intense recipes, like, and just like stoner food. Like, oh, I took too much edibles and I made these loaded brisket fries or whatever.
Ooh.
And
Yeah.
he makes some really good looking food. So
Why are
if you like to
potatoes so good when you've taken edibles? I
when
don't.
fried, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's a mystery.
It is a mystery.
I mean, potatoes are good even as sober, but
I agree.
they're even better.
There's something about potatoes.
Yeah. So if you're in the Midwest, it might not appeal to you, but if you're in a place where you can legally purchase marijuana, you should check his page out because he's got some good food ideas.
I'll have to check it out. I'll have to go look at it. I love anything food related. So
Oh, yeah. What's your chaser?
my chaser is a watch recommendation, and it's the movie called The Union. It's a new movie on Netflix with Halle Berry and Mark Wahlberg. It's got a bunch of other people too, but it's like a spy movie, action adventure. It's a good movie. Totally sets it up so that we can have multiple episodes of it, sequels and stuff like that. But found that recently and really enjoyed watching it. So highly recommend it.
I would not have picked them as a romantic spy duo.
Nope.
That's weird. Yeah, I'm looking at pictures right now and they're like almost kissing and shit. I'm like, it looks fucking weird.
Yep. Yep. It's
Mark
a good
Wahlberg
movie,
definitely
though.
would have called her a slur and beat her up. That's a reference.
That
if you
does
guys
not
don't
happen.
know.
That does not happen. So, all right. I think
Yeah,
that
if you guys
wraps
didn't
it
know,
up.
Mark Wahlberg called some Asian
Oh,
guy
did he?
a slur and beat him up.
Oh, I did
Yeah.
not know that.
You
I
didn't
hadn't
know
heard
about
that.
that?
No.
Yeah.
Wow. That's not nice.
Yeah. So if you didn't know about that, from Mark Wahlberg, then
Maybe
now
he
you
was
know.
having a bad day.
Let's see. I'm gonna pull the article up real quick. Yeah, he beat up a Vietnamese man. He hit him. Wait, what? Hang on. Don't click off yet, people. I'm reading the. Oh God, this. He hit him with a 5-foot something.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's
Couldn't
not good.
find it in the article, but yeah. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. That's wraps us up. Just had to get that Mark
Definitely.
Wahlberg thing in there.
Whoops.
All right, love you, Mom.
Love you too, bud. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, friends. Thank you for supporting our podcast. Please share our show with your brutal and bizarre friends. Give us a boozy follow on your favorite podcast platform. If you're feeling extra generous, we'd appreciate a 5-star rating or review as well. But maybe do that sober so all the letters are in the right place.
You can find all our contact information in the show notes. We love hearing from you, and if you're interested in helping us stock the bar for our future boozy episodes, you can find our Patreon link in the show notes as well.